democratic movements?
I do it well. I think we should look at after the collapse of Soviet Union and the 1990s, with new global economy now being a policy of the United States, and recognizing that the United States is created by multi-corporations, that the economy is driven by multi-corporations. They change their policies. Now they, instead of running the Middle East and maybe the world by dictatorships, they like to see democracies. They like to flourish democracies, and within those democracies, I think the more the United States corporations may do business with those countries.
Is this a positive thing for you?
I think it's positive. We should look at Iran, let's say. In 1979, Iran was, fell into the hand of mullahs, and the United States been shut off from Iran since 1970, and that's 25 years. None of the United States corporations went and did business there, and now it's in best interest of the United States that to establish democracy in Iran, in Iraq, and in Syria and all other Middle East, just like European they've done in Europe with Yugoslavia, and also they did with Indonesia. Now East Timor actually got their freedom, and that was with help of United States. They went there, they sent their army, they sent their power. They have a means to do that. None of the other states they could have this means actually to change that. This is
the gentleman next to you. The gentleman next to you is dying to respond to this.
I disagree with the gentleman. I think George Bush was elected undemocratically and very suspiciously became a president. And also, George Bush is undermining the United Nations, which is a democratic institution.
And how can the Middle East? Is the United States going to bring?
How can United States, George Bush administration, bring democracy in Iraq? How? When they undermine the democratic institution, International Court of Justice, and like all non-governmental organizations, George Bush himself, beginning of the war, when the voices were about the war,
you got the whole panel cracking to respond to you. So
I know.
Nadia wants to respond.
I think I want to raise, I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, when we talk about democracy, I mean, in academic language, we talk about democracy being an empty signifier. I mean, it really doesn't have a meaning of its own, independent of the various investment that we invest in that term. And when we talk about democracy, there are usually two theories of democracy. The first theory of democracy says, well, democracy is about the empowering of people via the empowering of reforming and empowering civil and political society institutions, and that economic development is an after effect when civil and political society institutions are developed. The second theory, which is the American paradigm for democracy, is the trickling effect.
Well, this is what this gentleman is talking about.
Yeah.
Corporations,
economic development, corporation, liberalize the market, laissez-faire, and then, democracy will come as a trickling effect. What is really problematic in the American model of democracy is that the market comes first to human beings and individuals. And you cannot expect a paradigm or a system of thought that puts markets above human beings, above human dignity, above notions of human rights, to really deliver on its promises of democracy.
This gentleman also mentioned Yugoslavia. He also mentioned Yugoslavia as being a model where the United States did not do that. I want to hear from Nader responding to that.
Yeah, I think as a general principle, there's a lot to criticize when we hear about the United States bringing democracy to any part of the world, particularly the Middle East. But given the question of the unique specificities of the Iraqi regime, the brutality of it, the reality that there is no internal mechanism inside Iraq for bringing about a democratization process, absence some external intervention. If you're a Kurd, there's a lot of sympathy. In northern Iraq right now, like it or not, there are several independent newspapers, there's several political parties, there's internet cafes, there is a fledgling civil society in northern Iraq, and that has come about as a direct result of a U.S. no-fly zone that is preventing Saddam Hussein's regime from attacking it. If you're a Kurd, I can understand why you'd be sympathetic for U.S. intervention to free you.
But are you saying that you could hold your nose and accept the United States bringing democracy to...
I'm saying we have to look at each case by itself, and given the brutality of the regime in Iraq right now, that there could be an argument that the first step needs to be, that regime has to be removed as perhaps an initial stepping stone to something better.
But last word to Mustafa before we go to break.
it is really odd to talk about bringing democracy by guns, by another nation. What do we mean by democracy? What do we mean is democracy? The rule
this
of
man's
people.
talking about bringing democracy through corporations, through developing business, through opening the area for
But
business.
it is not United States' responsibility or any other nation's responsibility to bring democracy to another nation. It is the right of those people to decide that.
Well,
but if we can, as external forces, we can do something.
But Sharif
we
will say
have
that as a Kurd, he's not going to be able to do this
But
on
we
his
have
own.
to support democratization, the process of democratization. We have to give support to democratic processes, democratic leadership, and rather than supporting dictators who are favorable to us, we have to support democratic processes. Middle East needs democracy, Middle East needs peace, but this cannot come by force, this cannot come by guns. We have to support.
Okay, Mustafa gets the last word before we go to commercial. We'll be right back after this. Please don't go away.
I had a
Welcome back to Counterspin. We're talking about the regional implications of war in Iraq. And we're with the audience right now. We're going to hear from this gentleman on this side.
I want to say that I completely agree with gentlemen. As a Kurd, as a point of Kurd, I support the regime change in Iraq because North Iraqi Kurdistan is the only part in Iraq that there is no pictures of Saddam, there is democracy, there is pluralism. The people use free society. I believe that the Iraqi regime, bloody dictator Iraqi regime, Saddam regime should be removed. It's the duty of all humanity to remove a dictator who massacred his own citizens. Let's remember Halabja massacre. The 10,000 of Kurdish people killed by mass destructive weapons. And this is the only thing that we know. There are 10,000 of people disappeared, lost by Saddam regime. And all human world community should be sensitive about this.
And you feel the United States would be a liberating factor for this? This is your strong feeling?
Yeah, I see that. We, as a Kurd, we have been observing this. In Iraqi Kurdistan for 10 years, there is even you cannot compare the rest of Iraq and Iraqi Kurdistan. We believe that.
Let's hear from Handi on this then.
See, it's very, I mean, one has to really respect the Kurdish experience. I mean, this is really one of the oppressed minorities in the Middle East, of complete international silence and all of that. And I, for one, as a Palestinian, believe in the right of the Kurdish people to self-determination, not only to self-autonomy, but to the right to establish a nation state. But as a Palestinian, I'll tell you, is that putting all of your hope in the American is a fatal mistake. This is what the Palestinians did after the first Gulf War. We believed in the Americans, we had faith in the Americans, we had faith that they're going to solve the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, we had faith that they're going to establish a Palestinian state, and we went into Oslo under the auspices of the US and and what did it deliver? Nothing.
But
Oslo is a failure in platform, in principle, in
Nadine,
process, in logistics, and everything.
We hear from Sharif on this,
But
please.
can
No,
I-
because I would like to hear from Sharif.
If you look at it, the main parties in the northern Iraq, which are the two main parties that are controlling the region, they haven't publicly said that we will support any American aggression against Iraq. They're in favor of regime change, but how that regime change is going to take effect is a whole different story. They would like to see a multilateral force coming to Iraq and do a regime change, or at least support the regime change, but they haven't publicly said. So in this case, disagreeing with Anati is saying that we put all our hopes in the Americans, or at least Iraqi people, Kurdish Iraqis, Iraqi Kurds, putting all their hopes in the Americans is not true, is that they haven't publicly supported any American aggressions as the Turks have done recently, or as the Iranians in power, at least the Iranian government is trying to do it hideously.
I believe it's ironic and hypocrite to talk about the U.S. will bring democracy to the Kurdish people of Iraq, where we know the U.S. and in Canada, other states, they keep suppressing the First Nation of the land in North America. And how about the right of self-determination to Quebecois people? We brought the tanks to the street in 1970s. So let's get our facts straight here and stop this baloney and fallacy.
Yes, the issue is shifting. The objective of this military buildup was not to bring democracy to Kurdistan or any part of the Middle East. Originally, the main purpose was elimination of weapons of mass destruction. And constantly the discourse is shifting now, as we are working in this process of eliminating weapons of mass destruction, the discourse changed and saying that there is a need for regime change in Iraq. But this cannot be done unilaterally. If there are several dictators around the world, we need to apply and sincerely follow the international law and go, if we are sincere about democracy, apply these rules universally. But it is not just democracy, justice, and respect to international law.
Okay,
and if we are talking about following United Nations principles, we have to follow all them universally for all nations.
Okay, I'd like to hear from this woman here.
Okay, I do agree that something needs to be done, but I don't agree with the means. Let's simplify things for a second. Say you have a street with an apartment building, and in that apartment building lives some sort of criminal, a serial killer, a murderer, a drug dealer of some sort. You want to get rid of this person. Do you target that entire building, or do you target the one person? First point is, who's to decide that the lives of all these peoples is worth the cause? And who's to say that once that person is gone, another will not take his place?
But do you think the United States is at all determined to try and bring democracy to this region? Do you think
that is not the main point? I do not think that.
What do you think the purpose is? What is the objective?
Control. The main purpose is control.
Okay.
And I think ethically at this point we all agree that no matter what this war will bring, it's not an ethical war. I mean, now we're just basically saying, is it, will it deliver on its promises or not? We know it's an unethical war.
Can we hear from this man here?
Sure.
I'll hold it.
In terms of commitment to democracy, I have to say most torturing techniques and devices that are used in the world are made in United States. And beside that, I am from Iran, and I don't think any nation has suffered more than Iranians. So I don't have any sympathy for Saddam. I believe Iranians have suffered, and also Iraqis have suffered. But the issue is the people of Iraq. In last 10 years, they have suffered a lot, and they're going to suffer more. In last 10 years, smarter administrations couldn't help them. They didn't want them. They didn't want to help, and now. This administration is not even smart. The guy that is not able to probably show Iraq on the map. And in general, what I have to say is double standard creates hatred, and double standard exists in the world as general and in the Middle East in particular. Israel has all kinds of weapons, nuclear weapons. Nobody talks about that.
Okay, I want to hear response from.
Well, definitely, yeah. If we look at the issue of Iran when we had the discussion, is definitely it's coming the same effect. Is whether if Americans try to interfere in the Iranian politics, we're going to see the same effects that internationally we're seeing right now. Is Americans try to sort of set aside all the differences that there are within the Iranian government and try to support the popular uprisings that come into the fact, and they publicly stated it many times, and they don't try to get involved in their internal conflicts, and that's what we see that again. If Americans try to get into it, then we see the same issues that yes, Americans are trying to overthrow the government and at least control Iran. So it's very hard. They try to do it one by one.
But a few more audience members here.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Ninos, an Assyrian from Iraq. All I see here is what seems to me from what you say is the United States of America is building a White House in Baghdad and putting Americans to run the country. Well, there is an opposition, and there are opposition parties that are working in the north of Iraq, and they have been doing conferences, and they have been coming together to decide about the coming Iraq, and they are capable of running this country. So what is the problem that the United States and some other countries are giving help and support to the opposition party to run the country? Where were these countries? Where was Syria? Where was Iran? Where was Turkey when the Iraqi people have suffered for tens of years, and we have given so many people as casualties of war?
Thank you very much. That's all the time we have for this week. We'll be discussing this more again next week. Hope you all come back. I want to hear one last word from our gentleman here.
I think we would be fooling ourselves to think that democracy is going to be installed by any country in one day or 1 week. It's going to take time, and the U.S. has no intention, no desire. U.S. is not qualified. I basically nominate Norway to lead the coalition.
How about Canada?
Not really. Sorry.
You don't have any faith in us pulling this off?
Well, no, not really. But what I have seen, Canada is playing tricks right now, sent troops, not making its position very clear. I mean, Jean Chrétien is basically has to defend himself. Now,
okay, Norway's it.
Hello, I'm Fred Lang.